Thank you so much, Pankaj sir, for joining us. Welcome to the Red Sparrow. Welcome to our show Untangled. Today we'll be untangling many of the bits and pieces that go into making Pankaj Kapur, both the artist and the person behind the artist. Welcome, sir. Sir,
Thank you.
many of us are looking for motivation in this lockdown to be in touch with our craft. So we want to seek some inspiration from you by knowing how you are in touch with your craft or in touch with life in general. If you could share with us, sir.
Well, as you live each day where you are in touch with life, that's first. And the second is that you should look at the day in a very positive manner and see in the given circumstance what can you do, not what you want to do, but what can you do. So if you have an approach of in this circumstance, what can I do? Well, you can do a lot. You will be able to get an opportunity to uh, have at least 20 things on your plate if you actually decide that this is what I want to do or how I want to spend my time. Now, in terms of the craft that you're talking about, well, we are in times where probably we cannot go in front of people to perform, but
Sure.
you can sit at home and do your speech practice. You can do your yoga. You can keep your body in tune. You can keep yourself physically fit. You can have voice practices done so that you are ready to get on sets when the time comes to go on sets. So
Very true.
no time is lost, I would say. Every moment that you have with you, you should be able to utilize it and use it positively and use it well for the days to come. And for each day, at the end of the day, if you sit back and maybe take a pen and paper and say, okay, what have I done today? Even if you jot down 5 things, you say, I've done yoga, I maybe cooked, I did my voice practice, I spoke to 3 people, I read a book, I heard some music, I saw a dance recital on one of these channels or whatever, or I saw something on YouTube which made me laugh, which made me cry, which enriched me, or uh, these are the things that will enrich your brain and your mind so that when the time comes for you to be able to go in front of the camera or in front of the audience, you are well equipped and you have not rusted.
Very well said. So it's basically living in the moment right now and making it, utilizing it to the fullest. So
That's right.
we,
That's right.
so we have a certain format that we follow. So we are going to quickly get into the format of the show. We have three
Sure.
sections. The first section is called Inception, where we would talk
Right.
about your childhood and your
Yeah.
school and college days. Then you'd
Yeah.
go into the second section called Assembly Line, where we are going to talk about your trainings and learnings at drama school and the process that you had formulated for yourself. And in the third section, Harvest, we are going to talk about your work. So
Okay.
let's begin with Inception. So I would want to know what movies did you watch as a child, in the sense that you went on to become a prominent face of the parallel cinema movement of the 80s and 90s. What movies were you attracted towards as a child, and what kind of acting appealed to you then?
But to be very honest, when I was, say, in my teens, I was watching mainstream Hindi films because that was the only exposure I had. The
True.
only difference was that because I was keen to learn English. I'm born and brought up in Punjab, and at that time, not everybody could speak English. You had to go to a convent school to be able to learn how to speak English, or in an English medium. I was not studying in an English medium till about 8th standard, and it was very difficult for me to speak in English. But I was interested. I told my father, who was a professor in English,
Yes.
that I want to learn English. So he said, go and watch a lot of English films,
Okay.
which would sort of make your ear prepared for receiving that language, and then you can practice it. And he also said, read a lot of novels so that your vocabulary becomes better, and slowly you will get to learn how to speak. Um, so that is how, in terms of the influences that I had, I would say initially it was the mainstream cinema and a bit of English films that I might have seen at that time. Uh, but majorly, I think the change and the influence of my father and my mother. I mean, my mother was my first teacher in acting. I mean, she made us do small little skits with gathering people from around the neighborhood. And my father was the one who would tell us literary stories from Shakespeare
Yeah.
uh, to to some detective stories, to some part of literature, which obviously he would read in English and narrate it to us in Hindustani or in Punjabi, because that was the only language we could actually properly understand when we were really small kids of say 8, 10, 12 types. And that I think created a great influence on my mind in terms of imagination, in terms of what to look forward to, in terms of literature, in terms of exposure towards things at a very early age in life. But I would say the twist um, in terms of getting on a second section of your thing, which we will talk about later.
Yeah,
But
sure.
but in terms of this, and one of the most important things that happened till ninth standard, my father never told me to study. I mean, he never even asked me whether I'm passing or failing, though I was passing, but he never said that, how are you faring? Because he believed that a child should be allowed to think and develop himself or herself in the manner he or she naturally develops. And I
How
think that was
wonderful.
one of the reasons. That's one. And the other, that he used to take us for 2 months to a hill station every year. I mean, these are 2, 3 influences. One, that of literature coming to me at an early age of maybe 6, 7,
Hmm.
and exposure to hill stations, and never being told that I have to be 100% student in terms of academics, which sort of developed my mind and desire to become an actor in the years to come.
So, do you remember some books that you read back then? And if you could share with us.
I think it was more his narration than my books.
Okay.
You know, I
Okay.
mean, uh, this whole series of Sherlock Holmes, for instance, or Father Brown, or the great warriors, Sir Lancelot, King Arthur, Shakespeare's stories, and then he would also make up stories. He would say, exploring the physical success in the world. But nevertheless, having said that, because he was a teacher, he was such a good teacher that to his children also, he just gave these things, very offhand, very simply, without making them heavy for us. And that still stays with me even till today.
So then you started doing a lot of plays in school and college.
Yeah.
Was there a certain moment after a play, maybe, when you had decided that I need to be an actor, or was it always there equally, or was there a certain point when it came very strongly to you?
I think a certain point, probably when I was about 10 or 11 years of age.
Okay.
And that's when I thought that because another thing that you must know is that I was a debater and an actor in school and college. And because I was successful at it, and our school would get trophies and our college would get trophies wherever I went, etc. It seems odd to speak from one's own mouth, but you're asking me these things, so I have to answer them.
Please tell us more
Yeah,
about
no,
things
I'm
you
just
did.
saying, no, that's what I'm saying, that because when you get appreciated in young age, at a small age, for something, then your inclination of mind starts going towards that. So my inclination naturally started going towards acting, because that was something which came in a way naturally to me, I thought at that time, and for which I was appreciated greatly by everybody around me. So I think that became a natural inclination for me to go towards that. Uh, there must have been some part of glamour as well, which must have influenced me. But when we come to the second part, then I will talk about it
Sure.
in a different manner, then I would say. I had certain passions, like kite flying was a great passion with me. I loved all kinds of games. I loved reading novels. I mean, I'm saying novels means anything that I could get my hand at. And surprisingly, for some declamation, they had given me a book. It was a heavy-duty Russian novel translated into English, an abridged version of that, by Mikhail Sholokhov, and Quiet Flows the Dawn. Trust me, I was in 8th or 9th standard. I must not have understood half of it. But I did read it. So I get a large part of the storyline. And things like these must have been influences on my mind.
So, would it be safe to say that you were an extrovert kid, student in school, an all-rounder achiever?
I would say that not achiever, but yes, I was out there. I was a performer.
Okay.
Yes, you can call me a performer. I was always desirous of performing in front of audiences, always.
So then this thought of taking training in acting came. And you have said this before that about the training of an actor, that raw talent is like a free flowing river and it needs to be harnessed in order to be channelized in the right direction.
Yes, you have researched a little bit about whatever I've said here or there. I must tell you, first of all, that how did I get into training?
Sure.
I think it was my father's decision, I would say, because he was a teacher. And when I told my father that I want to be an actor, my mother, of course, started crying because she felt this is not a line for decent people, etc. We are talking of, mind you, we are talking of early 70s, 71, 72,
True.
1971, 72. But my father, as a great teacher, as a great thinker, you know, he said, I'm so proud of my son that at a young age of 18, he has decided to do as to what he wants to do in life. But he told me, he said, son, you must know that is it the glamour of the films that is attracting you, or is it your real talent and urge from within that is attracting you? You must check that out. And this stayed with me for always. And this I say to everybody who comes my way, that this was a great learning. And he said that if you want to be an actor, you must educate yourself in acting. So he was the one who put this idea in my head. So I applied at the Film Institute, and he found out for me National School of Drama. Oh. And I applied for National School of Drama. In Film Institute, I got selected in audition, because that's what I was praying to God, that if I get selected in audition, my father would know that I have talent.
Yeah.
If I get rejected in screen test, that means my face is not good enough for the thinkers of those times in terms of the cinema that they thought was the cinema of our country. But if I get selected in audition, that means I have the ability, and it's not the glamour I'm running after. So fortunately for me, I got selected in National School of Drama as well, and which was, I would say, a blessing in disguise. Not that I'm trying to run down Film Institute. No, I think it's a great institute which has turned out some very, very fine actors and artists. But at that time, I was only 18 and a half years of age. And I think my influences would not have been correct. But when I went to School of Drama, I came across somebody like Mr. Al-Qazi as the director of School of Drama, and the whole staff at that time were such enriching people. And Hindustani mein jisko kehte hain ki unki sohbat, the very company of such eminent scholars, such eminent thinkers, such eminent artists rubbed off me. I was just 19 when I joined School of Drama. And that's when I started understanding the importance of getting educated. And my exposure towards what acting is, what art is, what literature is, what theater is, what arts in general are, I started getting an exposure towards that. And that's when the first step towards the kind of work that I would want to do in years to come sort of started off at that time.
Very true. So before we move on to the next section, I have one more question about the training of an actor. So do you think that there is a scarcity of seats for formal training in acting in India? And how do we tackle this?
I won't know much about that, but I think whatever I know is that every state has a kind of school now which teaches acting. And I think acting as a subject should be introduced. Acting means drama, acting, complete knowledge of the arts should be introduced as a subject in universities, which I don't know why it has not been introduced till now, because it is better to catch people young and also filter them young, which means that if by the time a boy is 17, 18 or a girl is 18, 19, they understand that it was probably their desire, but they don't have the talent or the ability, then they can follow something else. And it doesn't become the end of the world. Unfortunately, most of the people who end up trying to be actors are people who are hugely influenced by the glamour of being an actor or being a star, for that matter. What is important is that they should understand that it is not just glamour. There is so much to do with being an actor. Even in terms of a commercial star's success, there is so much behind it that goes for even a popular face to become that popular. But here, because we are talking of acting, so I would say that acting is an endless well. I mean, you can keep digging and digging and digging and digging, and you will not have had enough of it. no actor, if an actor says that, oh, I've done my best, means that he died many years back. So because it's a constant process of trying to improve and dig and know more and more and more and more, which is what will keep the thirst, um,
Alive.
there, alive.
Yeah.
But your question was that why are they're not institutes? So I said because the universities should look at that. That's one. But I believe that just now Paresh Rawal has taken over as the chairperson of the National School of Drama, and he mentioned in one of his interviews that he's looking at cities having drama schools, and I'm really thrilled about that. But at the same time, it's very important that we should know what kind of education is being given in those institutes, and what is the mindset which is teaching those students who come there actually initially out of glamour, less out of ability and desire, a genuine desire. Uh, they need to understand that it's a very difficult field. It's not easy to take it on. But having said that, it is only those who have the courage to go ahead will be able to go ahead. So they should know that they should be able to hone the craft. They should be able to specialize in it and not just touch upon it and say that just by being in front of the camera, I've become an actor.
On that note, sir, we shall move on to the second section, assembly line. Since you already talked about Ibrahim Al-Qazi Saab, could you share with us one or two learnings you had which were eye-opening for you at National School of Drama?
I mean, everything I would say, the very company of that gentleman. I mean, the way he used to direct, the way he used to teach us. And I'm saying he was the person heading the staff. There were others. There was somebody like Sheila Bhatia, who was our acting teacher. She was fabulous. Like we also had we had Mr. Nemi Chandra Jain as our modern Indian drama teacher. We had Nibha Khanna as our classical Indian drama teacher. We had Mr. Al-Qazi as our Western drama teacher. We had Mr. Ghosh as our makeup person. We had Mr. Sharma as our yoga teacher, and Mrs. Rita Kothari as our movement teacher. So I would say the sum total of all these people, headed by Mr. Al-Qazi. The mind came from Mr. Al-Qazi, where he took you towards things which you would not have thought of as an actor. One thought, why do I need to read, for instance? Why do I need to see paintings? Why do I need to see dance recitals? So he exposed us to all this and explained it to us that how important it is for you to see life in totality and not in a bubble. You must see everything in totality. You should be influenced by everything, so that whenever you're performing, in your subconscious, whatever has stayed on should be able to supply you with the material that you might have gathered in the years of observing great artists, observing great works, be it cinema, be it dance recitals, music, painting, literature, theater, actors, be it anything. So I think that was a great learning, because from where I came, as I told you, my only exposure was mainstream Hindi cinema.
Yeah.
So for a wider worldwide view towards acting and towards the fields of art, it was Mr. Al-Qazi and the National School of Drama and the then staff that sort of gave me exposure towards it. And then rest is up to you to pick up.
Right.
One of the things that I do remember Mr. Al-Qazi telling me, which became like a guru mantra for me, was that, remember, Pankaj, one thing, that no two people in this world are same, which was to do with two different characters that I was playing. And that helped me, in a way, create a path for myself as an actor in years to come. That stayed with me, and that stayed with me quite deeply. And one of the things that I have hardly taught, but whenever little I have tried to teach here or there in a workshop or something, I have not touched upon it, because it's a long process. It's a long way before you reach that point of being able to step into a character. But keeping that in mind, so which means that don't be just yourself all the time, though some people believe in it, and I respect them also.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about my path. I'm saying as to what I feel as an actor. And I respect those also who feel that you don't need to do anything. You just have to be yourself and just go through the scenes. Well, that's another way of thinking, and I respect all people for their ways of thinking. And there have been very admirable performances, some of them, through this way of thinking also. Well, good, lovely. Everybody should be able to exist in this world with their kind of thing.
Very true. So with that, let's move on to the third section, Harvest, where we shall talk about your characters. And we shall begin with Ek Ruka Hua Faisla from 1986. So this was actually a play that you were doing at Prithvi when Basu Chatterjee had come and decided that he would make a film out of it. And it was an adaptation of 12 Angry Men. So when this process was happening, that a play was made into a film, did this thought come to you that a character which you had prepared for the theater should be modified to suit the camera, or
101%.
How did you approach it?
101%. Yeah. But I could not do it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I could not do it because the theater director of mine, Mr. Ranjit Kapoor, and the film director, Mr. Basu Chatterjee, both of them said they wanted exactly the way I've done it on stage.
Okay.
And I regret it even today. Some people think it's a brilliant performance or whatever, they talk about it, etc. But what I'm saying is, there was a reason for it being like that on stage. I would have slightly modified it, though about 30-40% I did. But I would have liked to really bring about a lot of changes for cinematic reasons, because in cinema you have something like a close-up, you come very close to an actor. So in terms of communication, theater, because the audience is at a distance, they are seeing you in a kind of long shot, so you can, I would say, get away with a few things. At the same time, it's a different experience that you're giving to your audiences. But in cinema, because the camera is a very keen reader, so even just by being there, it sort of consumes the person within, in case you are able to communicate that within to yourself. Then it should be able to communicate that to your audiences through the camera. So yes, I would have liked to, even today, if I'm given an opportunity to replay that part, I would play it completely differently for screen. Also, there were other reasons. I was a 27, 28-year-old boy at that time. I needed to play somebody like 50, 55. So there were things that you would take help, to be able to convincingly. Also, this was a complex character who was extremely restless and things like that. Whatever I can remember, I mean, we are talking of something like almost 35, 37 years back. So when this character was done.
So let's move on to the next film, Ek Doctor Ki Maut from 1990, a brilliant film by Tapan Sinha, where you play a scientist, Dr. Dipankar Roy, who discovers the vaccine for leprosy, but is disregarded by his peers. And finally, he loses out on the patent to someone else from the West. I would like to connect it to the recent release you had, JL50, where you played a scientist again. The question I'm going to ask you is not exactly related to the craft, but to the messaging of that film and this series, that original thinking, research, and innovation are not given enough importance in our country. So what do you think is the core behind this mentality? That
I think red tapism, jealousy. You see, we as human beings have not learned to appreciate others. We are far from it. Even if somebody does a good thing, we might appreciate, but at the same time, in our minds, we think, why couldn't I do it? I wish I could have done it. If from within genuinely we start appreciating each other's talent and each other's abilities, I think we'll become far superior human beings, and we'll become far superior artists. An artist cannot be an artist of caliber in case he or she does not appreciate other person's work. And it is unfortunate that a lot of people may not have been able to come forward and reach out to the audiences simply because there were people who decided that this level of talent or this ability should be curbed at a lower level so that it does not become too big for us to handle. I mean, I'm just saying this, but as a human being, as an actor, I think one should be greatly appreciative of everybody's art. Well, you can always have your opinion about it. Nobody's saying no to that. For instance, I might like something and you may not like that. This doesn't mean that I am bigger or you are smaller or you are bigger or I am smaller. No, it's an opinion. It's an exposure. Like you are an outcome of your surroundings and you're bringing up. I am an outcome of my surroundings and my bringing up. Mm-hmm. I have my taste. You might like masala dosa. I might like rajma chawal. I'm just giving you an example. So, but there does come a certain basic level of performance or creativity or creative output which should always be appreciated. Um and things like red tapeism, things like not giving opportunity to the talent or giving them ability to support them to go ahead. I mean, we know some of the countries in the world how they pick up children from the age of 5 or 6 and allow them to be trained and allow them to flourish in years to come and make their country proud. Uh, I think that's an attitude which should always be there. When you ask about the contrast of two scientists, well, they are completely two different people. There is one person who's a passionate scientist who has reached the end, but because of red tapeism is unable to have it in his name, but is big enough to say that, okay, I will continue the research and go somewhere else and continue my work as somebody who needs to do good to the humanity. But in this one, the JL50, I play a scientist who's a physicist, who's more of a professor, less of a scientist, because he's not that greatly successful as compared to his peer. So somewhere there is that jealousy, there is that, desire to have owned that. So
he's
that
on the
part,
opposite side
he's on the
of that
opposite
character.
side of that character. So though both are scientists, but diametrically opposite people. So they have been played completely differently. And that was something which I played when I was 35, 36, almost 30 years back. I'm 65 now, 66 now. So I think they're two different kind of characters, but it was a delight to be a scientist again, to play a completely different character in the streets of Calcutta, which is also something that I really liked, because even the earlier film was also shot in Calcutta, and with a lot of fond memories of Tapanda. I would say that wonderful man, great director, makes you very comfortable as an actor and lets you do what you want to do as an actor. And I had a very, very nice time working with Shabana ji as my co-actress, and Irfan, who was just beginning at that time, and Deepa, and all this, the set of actors that we had, which is all very nice. Anilda, yes.
It's such a wonderful, wonderful film. I think this generation needs to watch it again and again, and it's so relevant. It has stood the test of time. So,
That's right.
We shall talk about the next character, Abbaji in Maqbool, for which you won a national award. And my observations about the character are, which could be completely wrong, but I would like to state them. I've seen that you've kept your upper body very rigid for that character. Your eyes have been half open. The gaze has been a little lower than usual. So, could you tell us how did you approach this character?
Well, I mean, when Vishal asked me to do this role, you were supposed to be in the middle of stalwarts, and you're supposed to be the boss, and how do you do that? So, well, a lot of thinking went into it, a lot of discussions with Vishal, a lot of reading of the script and pondering over it and trying to dig out things from the script, etc. A few things that I found was that he's a retired Don, which means he's laid back. So the slunkness that one created of the character was that at one point in life he might have been on his feet, then he might have been 17, 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
But now that he's into his 50s, he has an empire already. So there is that sense of having handed over stuff to others, but yet being the head. There's a certain ease about it, and you sort of tend to lose your body posture, etc. with that. The reason of getting the kind of posture that I created is a line that Vishal had given to Tabu, to that character, which says ke nanga kitna ghinona lagta hai. So for me, that was a cue for looking like an animal when he takes off his kurta in the lovemaking sequence.
Dream sequence.
That also helped me create a man who's not completely normal, create a man who walks in a certain way, and that also gave a certain level of authority. And the reason why his voice is a little, hoarse is because there's too much of pan chewing that is happening constantly.
Oh,
He comes from that culture, and Supari does that to you. So, I mean, these are the kind of, whatever I remember, because this film also we did about 15 years back. So I can't have too much memory, but yes, these were some of the reasons some of the things which we had discussed before we got into doing the role of Maqbool.
thank you so much for sharing all those insights. I would like to.
But I would say everything had to be taken out from the script, nothing from outside. Everything, whatever, even a single thought, you can pick up a scene and say, why did you do this like this? It would be in the script and not outside of it. It's not as if from outside I thought that let's make him physically like this, therefore it will become. No.
Okay.
It's to do with the whatever is the requirement of the script. So as an actor, what has been my learning is that you don't inflict anything from outside. You dig it in the script and find whatever there is and build your character on the basis of that, and build and create. I would like to say, sometimes building a character, sometimes trying to give life to a human being on screen. That's my approach towards my work.
Very true. So we shall talk about another film by Vishal Bhardwaj again, The Blue Umbrella. And I picked up this film because I want to understand how should an actor approach a new accent or a speech pattern. You play a shopkeeper from Himachal Pradesh there, you have a new accent there. How could you share with us some learnings about accents?
I think I've been lucky, I would say. I don't want to boast about it or something. No. I think it was mutually agreed that because the film is placed in Himachal, therefore a bit of that accent would really add flavor to the film and to the character, and will make the character look really local and belonging to that place and that area. I have been going to Himachal very often, I must say that. I've been exposed to Himachal a lot. Manali is one of my favorite joints there. I've been to Simla, Manali, Dalhousie. I'm a hill station buff, as I told you, that my father used to take us to hill stations. So these were also some of the hill stations which I've been visiting since I was a kid. So my ears were exposed to this language. Rest is a matter of practice. There's you practice it and see how, as a character, you are able to use it and use it correctly and not use it wrongly. But I'm very happy because there's a friend of mine who lives in Kulu. They are very dear friends of mine, husband and wife. After they saw the film, that they did say that you had absolutely the right accent for a Himachali small little village person. So which was nice hearing, because we had worked towards it. So it was nice to hear that.
पानी में छोटी सी कागज की नाव तैरा के कुछ फायदा होता है क्या?
True. So now we would understand your work as a comic actor. I have clubbed together 2 TV shows, Karamchand and Office. And with respect to these, I would like to know, how is the approach towards comedy different from approach towards drama, or is it different at all? And can comic timing be learned, or is it a natural talent?
By and large, it's a natural talent, I would say. You can improve your timing, but you can't have it in case you don't have it. That's one. Second is, comedy is always more difficult, but more pleasurable as well, I must say that. To tell you honestly, there are hardly any writers of comedy. We have managed to do a bit of humor here or there, not really comedy. I wish there were people who could write, think, reflect, and perform the way we have had the greats in the world like Chaplin and Laurel and Hardy and a whole lot of Buster Keaton and a whole lot of other people. Well, I think the content itself, Office, I would call less of a comedy, but I would call it more of a satire. With a touch of humor on our situations that we face on a day-to-day life.
True.
Karamchand was more of a character who's a common man. Because of his idiosyncrasies, the humor would get created. And also at times he would use his brain to create those idiosyncrasies to psych the other person so that the other person does not know what is coming ahead. Those situations would create a bit of humor. And we also created a human being who is not perfect, who is like a common man, but has a brilliant mind in detection. Otherwise, the way he's dressed, the way he behaves, the way he eats, the way he chews, the way he moves about, is like if he's walking on the road, you won't even look at him twice. So one of the reasons that why we decided to make him like that was that a man becomes a genius by his deeds, not by his looks. That was a single line which we had taken up to create this character. So that's where, like all our lives, in each of our lives, we have a bit of humor, a bit of emotion, a bit of this, and a bit of that. So we tried to make him a visibly a bumbling kind of a detective who lands upon things. But the fact of the matter is, if you watch the series even today very carefully, you will find moments where you see the seriousness and the brilliance of this man. Though in terms of his explanation, everything is very simply told, but everything is very deeply thought out, which if you see it today again, you'll be able to make out.
Very true. So you are not very active on social media, and you don't make a lot of public
I am.
appearances.
See, I'm talking to you.
Thank you so
I'm
much
right
for
here.
giving us that opportunity. But what I mean to say that often we don't see you posting out a lot of thoughts about different things happening around. How do you achieve that level of mental peace and satisfaction that you focus only on your work? And
But I would just simply say that I find it very for myself. Those who do it, I respect them and I admire them also. For me, I find that I can't expose my entire life and every moment of my life to the world. That's
true.
one thought. Though a lot of people have told me, as an actor, you need to have a Facebook page, you need to post something on Instagram, you should have a Twitter account, etc. I have none of these. Only probably some member of my theatre group has made some kind of a Facebook page because of our theatre activity, which might at times talk about this is the play that we are going to be doing, or this is the workshop that we might be doing. Till now, I have not done it, but I'm not saying no, because you never know, as in this lockdown period where everything is closed, everything has come to a standstill. 6 months back, I would have never done this interview that I'm doing right now with you. You know, I've never believed in this kind of stuff, but I understand these are the times. You have to change with times. You have to learn with times. So if I do tread this path at all, I'll be doing it very cautiously and very sparingly, not in a very involved manner. Well, I'm saying it just now. I don't know what will be there 2 years from now, 3 years from now. We can't really say. But till now, I have not been very active on social media.
So please do come out and keep posting things. We would love to hear from you on a regular basis.
Then it'll become boring, huh? Then you will say, oh, this guy is there every day. Then the fact that he speaks once in a while will be gone. So I think creating that little thing that when you speak, then you're heard, is better than when you keep speaking and nobody hears you. That's a better situation to be in, I would say.
That's an interesting perspective. So with that, we have come to the end. Thank you so much for giving us so much time, sir.
Thank
you. Sharing all your perspectives and insights.
Thank you, Veda. Thank you. Please.
Looking forward to all your projects.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hey guys, if you like that video, do share it with your friends and family. Do not forget to subscribe to the Red Sparrow for educative and entertaining content, and make sure you press the bell icon.